This is 1 in 44, a presentation of Anderson Center for Autism. 1 in 44 is a weekly show devoted to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism. And this morning I am speaking with Jay Perez, also known on Instagram as Jay Perez 2087, also known to us as a new friend of Anderson, introduced by our Chief Facilities Officer, Jose Castillo. Jay, you have come to us with an incredible new take on an old logo for our brand new ice cream truck. And I'm thrilled to have you on the show to talk about your who you are and how that came to happen.
Hi, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Like I said, I've worked with Jose for a long time, pretty much since he started at Anderson. And as you know him from way back when, I think, but he's a fun guy to work with. He's always coming up with great ideas. He works hard. He's built an incredible team in our operations department. But I've learned that when Jose says, hey, he stops by, and walks into our suite, or he shoots us an email or a text and he's got some idea, he knows somebody, we always take note because it's always a really creative, new, exciting, fun opportunity. And in this case, it was not disappointing at all. So we'll get into what you did and what people are going to start seeing on the roads and certain locations soon. But in the meantime, can you just tell us a little bit about your background? Who you are? Well,
I grew up in Brooklyn, in the Sunset Park area of Brooklyn. It wasn't the prettiest place growing up. And that's how I met Jose. We were like teenagers in the same neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And so I know him for a while. Since we were teenagers. And we in this area of Brooklyn, I don't know if you know Sunset Park, but it was a very high concentration of teenagers, mm-hmm. the highest in New York City, actually.
Really?
We had the most teenagers in one neighborhood in the all of New York City.
All right. So knowing Jose, let's see, what did you get yourselves into and out of troublesome situations, or was it all fun and games? How was that growing up there?
We stay out of trouble because I have my art, and I used to, believe it or not, I used to dance. That's when the breakdancing craze
awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so that kept us busy, out of trouble, and then we knew who to stay away from. Yeah. But we had a lot of fun. We played stickball, all the Brooklyn sports that you hear, the street sports that you hear, yep. Stickball, tag. Mm-hmm. We used to play all those, and we used to compete with other blocks. So that was fun.
Was it? And so growing up, you were, I'm guessing in that time frame, that was, leave the house in the morning after breakfast, see you for dinner, go there. I mean, it's not like today. I have a teenager now, and it's, do I have to come out of my room and there's screens everywhere? This was before all that. This was,
we just ate in the house and slept. We were outside right. 24/7. Right. I mean, in the summer, when we were not in school, in the summer vacation, we were outside playing. And basically, if we didn't work for the summer, we were playing, going to the beach. We were fortunate that this neighborhood, I still live here, by the way. I still live mm-hmm. in the neighborhood I grew up. Cool. So, it's fortunate. My wife actually grew up in Chelsea. Okay. In Manhattan. So she's a Manhattan girl all her life. Mm-hmm. So when I moved we moved here. Now she loves the neighborhood. At first, because it was still sketchy, and when she first moved here, I'm gonna say, wow, like 30 years she still calls herself a Manhattanite, but she's here 30 years.
She's got deep roots.
Yeah, I'm from Manhattan, but she lives here.
But I live here for 30 years. I got
but she loves the neighborhood. She found her husband here. She's a teacher, so she works a few blocks away. Okay. And everything is here. So, but she loved the neighborhood. being that it's so close to everything, it's still close to the city. We're only 5 miles away from the city.
Right.
By train. And she gets to drive to her beach. She goes to the beach. Yeah, she takes the Bell Parkway. And she's in the beach probably about 25 minutes. So
you could be a realtor. You're selling the location pretty well. I'm excited. Close to New York City, close to Manhattan, close to the beach. Got schools. Found romance and love. I mean, what's not to have? All right. So I want to ask you. I'm gonna prepare you for this question, which is I want to ask at the very end of the interview. But I don't think we can leave our listeners hanging without knowing whether our own Chief Facilities Officer, Jose, was good at stickball or bad. So you can have a little time to come up with that answer. I'm going to ask you that later, but we'll end with a little bit of trivia. Because believe me, like I said, he's a great guy to work with, but we have a lot of fun. So have to throw him out there under the bus a little bit. You mentioned that you had your art among being outside and playing with your friends and that huge group of teenagers at the time. What kind of art do you do, or did you start with a certain kind and has it changed over the years?
At that time, you're young, so you do what the other young people are doing, and they're doing comic books, drawings, and they're doing graffiti. So when I went to high school, that's what I was surrounded by. So we did I used to do the books. This is one thing I'm proud of. I never wrote on the wall, never wrote on trains or anything. I used to do the graffiti, but it was always on books. We used to call them black books, and we used to do the books, and we used to pass them around. Later on, I found out there was different types of graffiti artists. I didn't know, but there's guys that do the subway, the handball courts, and books. So I stayed with books. I didn't want to get arrested. I was too chicken.
Yeah, well, no. So I'm all for that.
and I just didn't like the destruction of property. That wasn't my thing. But I loved what people did with the lettering and the colors and the manipulating the letters and twisting them and so on. So I did books. And then I did also Levi. We used to do Levi canvas, the denim. We used to do denim jackets. Yeah, denim jackets and Lee jackets. So I was known to do denim and Lee jackets. And that was my favorite thing to do, jackets. And so, it was fun.
So Jay, did that start with like friends in the neighborhood just seeing what you could do in a book and saying, hey, I want that on the back of my jacket? Was it just word of mouth? Is that how it all happened? Cool.
Yeah, well, we used to see other... I went to the high school of art and design in the city. So there were guys that were, I don't know if you remember, there were disco guys and rock guys. There was always that difference of groups. People always put themselves in different groups, whether, whatever, political, religion. And they had this disco versus rock and roll thing happening back then. They used to call us disco bunnies or whatever.
Okay.
And so, but I used to see the rock guys used to have their denim jackets and they used to have their favorite albums covers with the art. And I loved that. I couldn't get enough of seeing them wearing their Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. Now I love that music now.
Yeah.
I can't believe I missed out on that when I was a young kid. But now I can't get enough of that, of rock. So I used to see their jackets. I'm like, oh my God, that's just awesome. I used to love seeing those jackets. And so then, of course, I saw the graffiti guys in school with the same designs, but in graffiti style. So I'm like, I started doing, I found out a little how they do it, what kind of paint they use. And I started from there.
Awesome. So it spread like word of mouth throughout the community. And, and so you were in high school and then where did your life take you after high school? And did you ever leave the neighborhood and come back to it? Or?
Yeah. After high school, I went to school of visual arts, so only 2 semesters. And then I joined the police department.
Well, that's a big shift. Okay.
Yeah. So I joined the police department because I couldn't get hired in the private sector, whatever the reason. So I I took the test. I worked as a summer help. I worked at a graphics place in Brooklyn.
Okay, so you stayed connected and you continued to do your art.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I worked at a graphics place after school. I worked at a graphics place and called JV Graphics, and this is before the computer stuff that you could do everything on the computer. So I did what was called back then paste up and mechanicals. Okay. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am not. Out of my repertoire.
Yeah, this was like 30 plus years. So how that worked was they typed the text that they wanted on the magazine. Uh-huh. And I had to take it, cut it, and actually paste it on the board with the. Right now, you just take Microsoft Word.
I was going to say you don't even touch paper anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So that computer, Microsoft Word, and all that took 3 graphic jobs away. The paste up guy, the guy with the photo that inserts the photo in and sizes it, mm-hmm. and the printer, the guy who prints. So it's amazing. So I did that, and then I was thinking of taking the police test, and pretty much I had no guidance growing up. I had to do everything myself. I had no big older brothers. My dad wasn't in the picture. Mm-hmm. My mom just struggling. Mm-hmm. And so the only advice I had was from older coworkers. And I asked this angel of a lady, Rosa. Her name is Rosa. Okay. And I said, Rosa, I'm thinking of taking the police test. What do you think? She goes, take it. Take the test. You could retire in 20 years, then you could do your art. And I'm like, really? Mm-hmm. And then look at me, I'm 14 years here and I'm still here, 14 years. And I'm like, okay. So I took the test. Whatever happens, happens. I did not really want to be a cop, really.
No. Okay.
No, I went to art school. So,
yeah, right. So
putting a uniform is so opposite that.
Right. No jackets nothing.
Right. So putting a uniform and a gun, strapping a gun. And after the academy is situated right next to the School of Visual Arts. Mm-hmm. So I was always like, oh my God, I want to be back there again.
Yeah.
So
how long were you on the force? Did you put in 20 years?
27.
27 years. And did you grow to have a love for it or an appreciation and passion for it? Were you ever able to bring your art into your work in any way?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I did 27 years. After in the precinct, I was gonna quit. I'm telling you, I'm not gonna lie. The first week of the police academy, I was gonna quit. Uh-huh. And another guy next to me, another cadet said, "Just give it a chance. Give it a chance. You did so much and came such a long way." Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. And it was a military thing, so they're yelling at you. You got to stand up straight. They're yelling in your face because it's a military,
right thing,
paramilitary. So I was gonna quit. I was not ready for that. And after the academy, we graduated. They sent me to Brownsville, Brooklyn. Uh-huh. Now I don't know if you know familiar with Brownsville.
Nope.
In the 80s, late 80s. Now I graduated 88, the academy. Okay. And they sent me to Brownsville. And I didn't have a car at that time, so I had to take the train. So it was rough. Mm-hmm. So, it was rough.
Okay.
It was.
Trial by fire. Trial by fire. But I think Jose had mentioned when we talked, and actually, you know what? I need to stop you right there just real quick. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and then I want to talk about something I heard about, I think some sketch artistry that you started to be able to do. Yes. Maybe that's what extended your career there in the force.
Exactly.
All right, awesome. We're going to take a real quick break. Sure. This is 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky. We'll be right back with Jay Perez.
Hi, I'm news correspondent Bob Woodruff. In 2006, a roadside bomb struck the armored vehicle I was riding in while reporting from Iraq. I sustained a life-threatening traumatic brain injury. The military term, "got your six," means I have your back. And that day, our service members had mine. During my recovery, I learned firsthand the challenges facing our service members who return home with injuries. While serving, their fellow service members always had their six. Now that they're home, it is our turn. We started the Bob Woodruff Foundation to make sure that the camaraderie and support they relied on in the military carries on, and we need you. Please join us as part of the Got Your Six initiative and help us be there for impacted veteran service members and their families. They've had our backs. It's time we have theirs. Learn more at gotyoursix.org. That's gotyoursix.org. Using the number 6.
And now, 1 in 44 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs program presented by the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I am Eliza Bozensky, and I'm talking with Jay Perez today. Jay, you were just talking to us about your youth, your art, your sort of left turn into the police academy and working in Brownsville and Brooklyn. But I'd love for you to share with us, at what point was there sort of an intersection of your love and your passion and your skill in art and what you were doing as a career at the time?
At that time, I got transferred because I just did 6 months in the Brooklyn North. It was called Brooklyn North, the Brownsville. Okay. So I got transferred to the 88th precinct. I met a sergeant there. Oh, actually, one of my training sergeants used to be a detective, and he said, "There's an artist unit," because I used to sketch everybody in the precinct.
You couldn't stop yourself. That's good. That's good. That's true passion. You can't stop.
Every time I had indoor duty, like the cells or answering the phones, because sometimes they'll use guys and they'll have them inside doing various duties. So every time I had that, so I would break out my sketch pad and sketch out the guys and make fun of them.
Yeah, nice. Perfect.
And I sketched the sergeant, and the sergeant goes, "We have an artist unit," and I'm like, we do?" Right. He goes, "Yeah, I'll get you the number," because he used to deal with them as a detective, so that's what he knew. And he gave me their number, called them up. They set up an interview. I had to bring my portfolio. Mm-hmm. The guy is an old school detective. The guy I met it's in One Police Plaza, the 5th floor. Mm-hmm. And I go there as a young kid. I only had 2 years in the police department. And I go there and I meet this detective. He looked just like Serpico from the 70s. He had his gun here, short sleeve with the tie. I mean, old school, 1970s detective, Frank Domingo, rest his soul, he passed away. So he gives me the interview. He was a fantastic artist too, with his pencil work. And he gives me the interview. He goes, "Hey kid, you did good, but you're number 17 on the list. And the only way you get in this unit, there was only 3 guys in that unit for the whole city. Mm-hmm. The only way you get here is if one of us dies, quits, or retires." And I was like, "Oh, forget it. I'm never getting there." So he goes, "You're number 17 on top of that." Wow. So a couple years later, they have NYPD has an art show. I submit my stuff. It's at the Salmon Gundy Art in the Village. Really? Yeah, it's at the Salmon Gundy Club, which is very well known. Mm-hmm. And he sees me. Frank Domingo sees me. He says, "Wow, you're still doing this, huh?" And I go, "Yeah, I love art and stuff. In my spare time, I did art." And when he winds up retiring a few years later, and he gives my name to the other senior artist that's going to become the senior artist that makes decisions. Okay. And they call me up, and he says, he calls me up, the next guy's seniority, and he goes, "Are you still interested? I didn't meet you at the art show, but Frank Domingo talks highly of you." And next thing you know, I get transferred. I meet him. I bring my portfolio again. Nice. I meet him. And next thing you know, I'm transferred there. So you went up the chain pretty fast. That's great. I mean, in terms of those 17 people. Yeah, it also helps. I only had 6 years in the police department. It's all about seniority. Uh-huh. And they don't want to bump the senior guys off. So they don't want a guy coming in with more time than they. So
I see. So rookie, perfect. Okay.
Being a rookie helped me out at that time because I didn't bump any. I was the lowest man on the lowest totem pole.
So you became a sketch artist, one of you said 3 for the entirety of New York City.
Yes.
That must have been quite an amazing experience.
Oh,
I'm guessing you found yourselves in a lot of interesting situations, sketching a lot of interesting characters.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
So I wish we could talk more about that aspect, but I want to jump for the last couple of minutes here to this kind of correlates to how we met you and how you got introduced to Anderson, because it goes back to that relationship, that friendship you had with Jose Castillo, who works at Anderson. Jose has gotten extremely excited about this new ice cream truck that Anderson is going to be getting out on the road very soon. And one of the things that for a while now, Jose has been coming to us, to his colleagues with ideas for how it should look and different options for colors. And that's one of the things I love about Jose is he's not just about, whether it runs or doesn't run or what it's going to take to maintain. He wants this thing to pop. He wants it to look amazing. He's so proud of what Anderson does and of the families and the children and adults that we serve that he wants to make it really special. And so all of a sudden we open this file one day. So
file, yeah.
Yeah, you open up that file, or we open up the file, and there is it's such an awesome visual because it's a logo that those of us who've been with Anderson for a long time know. It's our Blue Knight. And our Blue Knight is the mascot for our Special Olympians, our athletes in our program who participate in Special Olympics. And they are the Anderson Blue Knights. And we're very proud of them. But you took that Blue Knight and all of a sudden, in this perfectly natural way, the Blue Knight is holding out a beautiful ice cream cone for everyone to come to the truck and learn about Anderson and learn about autism and interact with our staff and our students and adults. And you made that. So thank you.
Oh,
and we wanted to take this opportunity.
I'm glad I helped.
We want people to know your story and who you are when they see that logo and they know that there's a real person who's got a really interesting story and a personal connection to people at Anderson. It was just such a cool thing that you did. I wanted to give you a chance to say anything that might mean to you, and in terms of supporting an organization like Anderson that works with people with autism, and is that I don't know that you get to do that all the time, so it's just really great.
I don't, and I was so proud to do that for Jose and for you guys. You guys do amazing work there, and Jose told me all about your work that you do. And it's amazing. So I'm glad I was able to be part of this little project with you guys.
Well, if you're going to be a big part of it, you already are, because now you're part of the Anderson community and the Anderson family. I will say that I've noticed that Jose has been talking about sort of making the Blue Knight logo, that logo a little bigger. So you'll hopefully be very pleased with how it looks. And again, I don't want to cut your story short because it's a great one, but I want to make sure our listeners know that they can follow you at J Perez, that's JPEREZ 2087 on Instagram.
Yes, that's my shield number. My badge number.
And that's your shield number. I love that. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. And now we have a minute left. We need to know the answer. When you were back then, young kid, teenager, playing stickball, Jose's there in the mix. Was he a mess or was he a superstar?
I think he was a superstar. I think he was. He could have played for the Yankees.
Oh my! I think he might have paid you to say that. However, we will hear about that for a long time. The stickball superstar. Well, listen, Jay Perez, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you so much for telling your story. It's a really interesting one. And I think as a reminder, outside of the artwork and the backstory, like your whole story should be a reminder to us all to never lose sight of your dreams. Even if you have to make some decisions that don't exactly feel right at the time, if you keep doing what you love, you're going to get there. And that's awesome.
Yep. I was so lucky in my life.
Well, congratulations. I hope to be able to meet you someday in person. And thank you again for being on the show. And thank you for our ice cream wielding Blue Knight. It's the best.
Awesome.
All right. Jay Perez, 2087 on Instagram. This is 1 in 44, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky. And remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 44, a weekly presentation of the Anderson Center for Autism. Join us for another edition of the show at this time next weekend.